everyone, Cassius here, and welcome back to the Shakespeare Minute. Today, as promised, I am here to review the Henry IV Part 1 clip from The Hollow Crown for another installment of Shakespeare News. Okay, where to begin with this one? First off, a quick reminder, this is from Act 3, Scene 2, where the king, here played by Jeremy Irons, calls his oldest son, Prince Hal, here played by Tom Hiddleston, to him from the bars and the whorehouses that the prince has been frequenting, specifically to rake him over the coals about his truancy. Since I somehow have even more to say here than I did about the Richard II clip, let's jump right in. And this time I will not be going through literally every second, since I did explain a bit about this clip last time, but I will dig through the first 10 seconds.
The hope of thy time is ruined, and the soul of every man prophetically doth forethink thy fall.
Oh, Jeremy Irons is so hardcore. Yes, his voice is awesome and he has gravitas enough to be two kings. No need to go through that. Let's just note here for a second, though, that the younger brothers of Prince Hal are here to witness the coal raking, and they are very, very young. I am jealous of direction that good. Having Hal be visibly older than his siblings, a surprisingly rare choice, makes his truancy all the more hard-hitting and high stakes. Also, having them here obviously ups the ante in terms of the power dynamic in the room. Just to be clear, they are not in the original scene as it is written, but I am loving their presence here now. Let's skip to here.
By being seldom seen, I could not stir, but like a comet, I was wondered at, that men would tell their children, "This is he." And then I stole all courtesy from heaven, dressed myself with such humility.
Wow, forgetting the fact that I would be terrified to pull that move on my mother while she was mid-rant, ruler of England or no, let's actually look at Prince Hal here for a second and his reactions. Prince Hal, keep in mind, is deliberately hanging out in bars and being a truant so that he can get a bad reputation. That way, when he takes charge and proves himself, he will so far exceed expectations that his opponents will be baffled into submission. A weird plan, but even more weirdly, a sound one. So Hal is firmly in I expect this treatment mode, even if he is being embarrassed. It makes him come off very, very prickly, and I love that unusual take. Hal is an intense person and he is planning to make good, but it's not really in the plan to let his father know that, or to buckle under the emotional pressure, especially if there are baby brothers there to impress as well. Now, let's skip to the conclusion of Henry's speech to his son.
For thou hast lost thy princely privilege with vile communication. Not an eye but is aweary of thy common sight, save mine, which hath desired to see thee more, and which now doth that I would not have it to make blind itself with foolish tenderness.
Here is where I really think Henry needs to shine. He is a broken, upset man, and as far as I'm concerned, Jeremy Irons, if anything, is almost too powerful. As a quick comparison, let's watch that same bit from the 1979 BBC performance by John Finch, the only truly role-defining performance in the entire BBC Complete Works, if you ask me.
For thou hast lost thy princely privilege with vile participation. Not an eye but is aweary of thy common sight, save mine, which hath desired to see thee more, which now doth that I would not have it to make blind itself with foolish tenderness.
His hands are in constant nervous motion. He is so visibly in pain. Well, Jeremy Irons is coming at this from a bit of a different place. He seems angrier and he seems more powerful. And here, where he breaks a little bit, he actively seems to be reproaching himself for doing so. And I do hope to see more of this emotional third rail kind of behavior, where he can't really face how sad he is and starts pulling back sharply at the more emotional pieces that he's given. Now, in the older version, Finch is so determinedly upset the entire time that this moment where he actually breaks down into tears seems like a perhaps calculated use of that sadness. But in this newer take with Jeremy Irons, it actually seems like he's losing it and breaking inadvertently. And you can see here in the new version that Hal's expression is much more reactive during this moment as well. So, calculated or not, tearing up worked for Henry IV as a way of reaching Hal, at least in a different way than he'd been reached thus far in the speech. Now, let's take a peek at how Hal actually responds to this in his next line and the rest of the clip.
I shall, hereafter, my thrice gracious lord, be more myself.
Okay, first off, I've seen that many, many, many times, and it's still shocking. And even with Tumblr being abuzz about the slap heard round the Shakespeare fandom, it behooves me to try to break this down with a slightly more level head. Hal transitions here from open dismissiveness to a more agreeable tone when he starts to see his father crack under the pressure. But instead of getting serious, he goes flippant and decides to try to charm his way out. Now, to see how easily this could have gone a far more intense but far less volatile route, let's again go back to 1979.
I shall hereafter, my thrice gracious lord, be more myself.
And there we go. The new direction taken in The Hollow Crown makes for a more interesting scene, especially because there are witnesses to this. Charm may work at the bar, but Henry IV is not Falstaff, and you cannot get away with that here. The misstep is interesting and shows that while Hal's new reign might be well planned for, his father is critically not in on that plan and does not just accept what he's being shown. I cannot wait to see how the raised stakes here transition into the textual reconciliation that Hal and Henry share right after this moment in the scene, where Henry does seem to accept Hal's plea that he will in fact prove himself and determinedly say, I am your son, I can succeed you. It goes into this place later on in the scene and gets much more personal. This, of course, looks like there's going to be a very gripping change from what we've seen to get to a place like that. Now, I am super excited for that. I'm super excited for pretty much everything about Henry IV, Part 1. Till next time here on the Shakespeare Minute, I'm Cassius. Think of the world. Remember how I said to watch that trailer for The Hollow Crown? Well, on Sunday I am going to do a quick overview of the Henriad while discussing that trailer. Like a sane person, not like a hysterically weeping fangirl, I promise.